Hi guys, what's going on? Mr. Butterfield's here already. How you doing, Mr. Butterfield? Glenn, how you doing? I saw your comments on today's video. Uh, that was I hope that was an entertaining video for you guys. I found it quite entertaining. I found it a bit funny. How is everyone? What's going on? How's everyone been keeping? What's new? What's the news? Nice. So we've got two people on here at the moment. It seems. Uh, always happens at the start. It takes a while to get going, doesn't it? Mr. Butterfield says we should get him to be a guest star. I doubt he'll do it now. It did actually cross my mind, when he first, because obviously I've had similar situations in the past. Like Craig Vincent, for example. He had a role in The Irishman. He played what's the guy's name? Edward Parton. He was the guy who was recording Jimmy Hoffa when Hoffa was doing all that dodgy stuff with the lawyers, the tampering, sorry. And I made a video about him before The Irishman came out because he played the cowboy in Casino. And I just made a video saying, hey guys, guess what? Did you know the guy who plays the cowboy in Casino is going to be in The Irishman? And the guy who plays him, Craig Vincent, he actually saw my video and he contacted me and we had a bit of back and forth. And he seems like a very, very nice guy. He even invited me to come round to his place. And there was a few ideas we had knocking about. Very few of them materialized, mainly because he had a bit of confidence issues, I'd say. But then one thing he did do for me was I sent him a script for one of my videos, and then he read the script, recorded it, sent it back, and then I made a video from it. So it was nice, It was nice to collaborate with an actor who had been in The Irishman, and you can check out that video. It's called "The Rise and Fall of Jimmy Hoffa," and you'll see a second half of the video. Craig Vincent narrated it for me instead of me doing the narration. So I mean, it did cross my mind when Abekasa emailed me, because obviously I knew, deep down, I knew this guy is going to give me shit. He's going to be really pissed off because of the way I reviewed his film. I went back and watched my review, and I thought to myself, if I was the director, I'd probably be a bit miffed with this guy's review. Even though, like I mentioned, I'm just a nobody, I'm just a guy on the internet. Why does this guy who's worked with Scorsese and De Niro care about what I think? But anyway, it did cross my mind, Mr. Butterfield, whether maybe I could interview him, or maybe he could play a part in a new video or something like that. But I think we all know that ain't gonna happen, is it? So yeah, right. So we've got a few more people on the chat. Very nice. So where are we? Glenn says stand-up guy was all him. Michael Rappaport was actually kind of funny, and I've not seen that one. I've heard that it's pretty poor. All his movies, from what I hear, are pretty poor. The other one he did, First We Take Brooklyn with Harvey Keitel. Apparently, that's absolutely horrible. Orion, in the new film Killers of the Flower Moon, I think I heard a soundtrack for the film on Instagram. Really? I highly doubt that, Orion. But where did you hear that? Because I mean, they've not even started uh, filming yet. So you'd imagine the score is something that's usually done right at the end for most movies. Unless you're Sergio Leone and Ennio Morricone. Hi, Cadden. How you doing? David's here as well. Nice to see you, Dave. Have I seen Ghostbusters? The original? No. The remake? No. I've seen bits and pieces of. I don't know if it's Ghostbusters 1 or 2, but you know where the big marshmallow man comes along. I've seen bits and pieces of that one, but I do one day need to sit down and watch the entire thing. Mr. Butterfield's asking my favorite Stephen King book. I've not read that many. What have I read? I have read The Shining, and I've read 1 or 2 others. But your favorite, you've just said you're reading Salem's Lot. That's actually my favorite from the ones I have read of his. I've not read a lot of his. He's made a lot of books. But from the few I've read, I think I just read, maybe two or three, four. Salem's Lot is my favorite. I like the characters, and I love the way I don't know where you are in it. I'm not going to give it anything away, but I love the way it just kind of followed these random characters in Salem's Lot, Jerusalem's Lot, I think it's called, isn't it, in the book? And it's just their day-to-day lives, but it was really entertaining. And then all the vampire stuff kicks in, and then because we feel we know all the characters, all the vast amount of characters who are in the book, it affects us when things start to go down and people start to get picked off one by one, and it all happens very fast. That's a very good book. I wanted to check out the movie of that as well. I think it was made in 1979 or something, wasn't it? The film version. Glenn says, I love Keitel, but he ain't shy about showing up in shitty movies. Yeah, I mean, you could say the same about all of these veterans, isn't it? De Niro and Pacino is the same. Keitel actually is quite interesting because he tends to do a lot of projects with independent filmmakers, new filmmakers. He's not arsey about that kind of stuff, it seems. So, but obviously the downside to that is that he's gonna end up starring in a lot of shit films. But sometimes he comes up with Diamond in the Roughs, and let's hope the new one, the one that he's doing with Aiton Rockaway, the Maya Lansky movie. Let's hope that's going to be a good film. And as you guys know, if you do know, or if you don't, check out this video I did a few days ago called "Exclusive Update" on the Harvey Keitel Maya Lansky film. Somebody part of the film's cast or crew is in communications with me, and whenever there's updates on the film, he or she's going to be telling me. I can't reveal who it is because obviously the cast and crew are not supposed to be doing interviews and things like that. They could get in trouble because obviously all that kind of press junkets and all that kind of stuff. Those stuff all staged. The studio all deals with all that kind of stuff. So really, the person who's doing this is not supposed to be doing it. But I mean, it's nice. He or she has told us the when roundabout the movie's going to be finished, the release date. They think that Keitel gives one of the best performances of his career, which do with that what you will. I'm not gonna get my hopes up because obviously it could be a case of the people promoting their own movie, but we'll just have to see when it comes out. But yeah, stay tuned on the channel if you're looking forward to that film. Stay tuned, with regards to my channel, because chances are, if there's any updates on it, you might hear it here first. In fact, the guy who I'm talking to has actually said that there should be some new pictures that will come out, and he's going to send them to me first. So yeah, stay tuned, guys. Martin Scorsese has joined the chat. Hi, Scorsese. You got to the dead baby bit. What was that? Oh yes. That was the woman who couldn't handle her child, wasn't it? She used to abuse him, if I remember correctly. Yeah. That's a long book, isn't it? A lot of great characters in it. I think I remember what you're talking about, Mr. Butterfield. Hello, Dr. Adolphus. How you doing? Ryan's here. Caden, is that really Scorsese? Or is it an imposter? We'll let you work that one out, Caden. Caden, sorry, I think it's pronounced. Orion says, this is in regards to hearing the Killers of the Flower Moon soundtrack. Apparently, yeah, I heard it on a page that the people who are a fan of the book, and one of the posts said, in Martin Scorsese's new film Killers of the Flower Moon soundtrack, and it sounded a bit scary and serious. Well, I'm not sure, you know. Um, I doubt it. I don't see them doing the soundtrack to a film like that this early, especially since it's Scorsese's. Half of Scorsese's films don't even have soundtracks. Uh, Mr. Busfield, Cineron has got connections. It seems so, doesn't it? If by connections we mean film directors calling me a, what was it again? Idiot doofus. No, I think it was dork idiot. What Beckersel called me. It's kind of funny, to be honest. I mean, it's different, isn't it? You know, I'd expect someone to say, shut the fuck up, or swearing at me, But it's actually, like I mentioned in the video today, it's actually kind of sweet. The guy's calling me a dork. I've not had anybody call me that before. Dr. Dolph says, I don't think Joe Pesci has been in a bad film. Maybe you'd know better. I think he's been in a few bad films. Going Fishing, I think, got terrible reviews. I've not seen many of his bad films. I've seen pretty much just the good ones, the Lethal Weapon films, My Cousin Vinny, Home Alone, and obviously the gangster films. But I think he's been in a fair few below par films, and I think that's one of the reasons why he may have retired so early. Maybe Going Fishing uh, just kind of coaxed him into retiring, a bit like someone like, I don't know, Gene Hackman, who retired when he saw League of Extraordinary Gentlemen, and a few other actors who have done similar things. Yeah, you're right, Dr. Adolphus. Joe's Cazale, Fredo. His filmography is incredible. So short because obviously he died. He passed away from cancer. But his filmography is incredible. He's got the first two Godfather films, Dog Day Afternoon, The Deer Hunter, and I think that's it. Maybe there's one or two more, but it's just masterpiece after masterpiece. Who knows what kind of career he might have had he lived longer. David's asking Golden Globes or Oscars. I don't really care, to be honest. I'm not really. I mean, the one I look at from the one I pay attention to more is the Oscars, but only because their pedigree is higher and they're more well known. But in general, I don't really give a shit about award ceremonies. Mr. Butterfield says, you watch any horror films this October? No, I haven't really watched many movies. I think I tend to say this again and again on live streams, but it's true. For someone who talks so much about films and loves films so much, I have not really seen that many movies recently. And when I say recently, I'm talking months. Um, well, this month, I mean, I did watch Alive, which is a 2020 zombie film. That's probably the only horror film I've seen recently, but that wasn't October. I think that was last month, and I reviewed it. Yeah, but apart from that new film on Netflix, I think those two are the only films I've seen recently in the last couple of weeks at least. Yeah, it's crazy. Dr. Adolphus says Daniel Day Lewis has a good shot for never being in a bad film. Yeah, he doesn't do many, does he? And the ones that he do tend to be good films. But I think even he has a few stinkers here and there. But in general, yeah, he's got a great filmography. Orion says, yeah, I agree with you that it's too early for soundtrack or theme song too. Yeah, I don't think that there's any credibility to Killers of the Flower Moon having its soundtrack released so early. I doubt they've even cast. Sorry, cast is not the right word. I doubt they've even hired whoever's going to do the soundtrack. Usually it's unless my mind has gone complete blank. James Howard Newton, isn't it? That usually does Scorsese scores. At least he used to do. I think for Gangs of New York and a few other films here and there. But it's going to be interesting because obviously it's a period Scorsese film, so we're not obviously going to be hearing, Gimme Shelter and these other Rolling Stones and all that kind of stuff. It'll be interesting to see if Scorsese goes down the route of having no music, uh, which is a kind of thing that he tackled in The Irishman. Obviously, there are scenes that have no music, that are completely silent. The entire segment from Frank Sheeran being told he has to whack Jimmy Hoffa all the way to the actual whacking itself, which is around what, maybe 20 minutes, half an hour, that has no music in it at all. And yet it has so much tension. So it's going to be interesting to see if Scorsese plays around with that. I would prefer, though, if Scorsese had a really good soundtrack, like an orchestral soundtrack, like these great westerns of the past. As a big spaghetti western fan and a Sergio Leone fan and Ennio Morricone fan, I really do hope Scorsese goes all out. Because the thing is, Scorsese doesn't really do film scores. It's usually film soundtracks. But the film scores he has done have been pretty good. Not nothing crazy, but like I like the music in Gangs of New York. Even the original music. I like the music in Cape Fear. There's a few other films here and there that he used original music for, and it's pretty good. So I hope that Killers of the Flower Moon does something similar. El Rue says, "Dude, I was slayed at the email thing earlier. I'm glad, mate. I'm glad. I was actually because my initial thoughts was, should I be doing this? Should I be making a video on this? This guy emailed me privately, but at the ultimately I thought, I'm not doing anything ethically wrong here. There's nothing wrong with this. I hope my subscribers will have a laugh over this. We can all uh, watch it, read about it, and then we just move on. So I thought, to hell with it. Let's just do it. And I'm glad a lot of people enjoyed it. A lot of people are laughing in the comments. They found the whole thing quite funny. So I mean, I hope Danny, if he ever sees it, finds it funny. I'll tell you something though. I actually sent him to him. I I sent him a link of the video, so he'll have it presented to him. I don't know if he's gonna watch it or not, but it'll be interesting to see if he has any opinion, if he gets back to me on that. Orion says, speaking of Killers of the Flower Moon, I'm almost done with the book. Yeah, the book is great. The book is a brilliant book, and it's one of those that you can see there's a lot of great material for a great film. And a bit like The Irishman, there's a lot of different characters you could focus on. There's a lot of different ways you could make this film. Like one being, for example, the book, what the book itself is, which is a murder mystery. And yet Scorsese is not going to be making it as a murder mystery, as he said. He's going to be making it more as a kind of character study of how a person can commit genocide. So it's going to be really. I'm really looking forward to Killers of the Flower Moon. The more I hear about it, the more Scorsese talks about it, the more interesting it sounds to me. Because I'll tell you what, I wasn't really that interested in the film when Scorsese said it was a murder mystery. Sorry, when it was announced, because it was a murder mystery. I'd read the book after it was announced, and I thought, yeah, this is a good book. It's a brilliant book. But as a murder mystery, it's not that interesting because it's a bit obvious who it is in the end. And even in the book, when you find out who it is that's doing all the killing, it's not really that much of a big deal. What the big deal is what happens after, which I won't mention because obviously spoilers. But I mean, it's like, and plus, he's already kind of delved into that territory with films like Shutter Island. These films with a twist at the end or a big reveal. But for him to say, right, this isn't really going to be a murder mystery, it's going to be a western and it's going to be a character study. For me, that harks back to the old Scorsese films, The Raging Bulls, The Taxi Drivers, the ones where he, kind of tears apart these characters and goes deep into their psyche. That's the kind of film I want to see Scorsese return to. We've got a fair bit of that in The Irishman. The Irishman was very new in many ways, like obviously the de-aging CGI and all of that, but in many ways it was very old school Scorsese. Perhaps the perfect blend and mix of old and new. So it's going to be really interesting to see Killers of the Flower Moon. Kaden says, I wonder if Francis Coppola's, I can never pronounce this, Megalopolis will ever be completed. I hope so. It's supposed to be his ultimate passion project, isn't it? But it sounds incredibly expensive, and I don't see anybody financing that film. Well, I say that, but then again, companies like Netflix exist, don't they? So they could be Coppola's hope. Failing that, I mean, he could finance it himself. He's done similar things in the past. Glenn says, I thought Lewis was hammy in Gangs of New York. Well, for sure, but hammy doesn't necessarily mean bad. De Niro was hammy in Cape Fear, for example, another Scorsese film, but it fitted with the tone of the film, and I think Daniel Day Lewis is very similar. It's almost like a cartoon character. It's a larger than life character. He's the bad guy, and yet the entire film is revolved around him. I read somewhere that he shares a scene with all of the major characters in the film, and it shows, and it shows within his performance. I thought he was brilliant, to be honest. I love the way he talked as well. I could listen to him talk in that accent all day. Daniel's here as well. Daniel says, "Same here. I haven't seen many films all the way through in a while." Yeah, I mean it's strange because you would imagine, at least for me personally, that because I'm such a big fan of films, I would be watching more films during the whole COVID situation. Obviously, I'm back at work now, my day job, but we were in lockdown here in the UK, and yet I hardly saw any films because I spent most of that time trying to entertain my kids, trying to keep them happy and make sure they're not bored while we're stuck in the house. So you think, when the lockdown announcements are all made and all that, that I'm just gonna be sitting at home watching TV all day and night, but the reality is very different. Uh, Filmogol, Filmologia, Filmologia, Filmologia. Nice to have you on again. What do you think about Scorsese's Last Temptation of Christ? Also, what do you think is his most underrated film? Last Temptation is a film that I watched many years ago. For me to give a proper opinion of it, I would have to see it again. I was not particularly moved with it when I first watched it. I find it difficult to relate to. Now, I know this is quite hypocritical because I've always been of the opinion that, um, like, say, some people say that, oh, I'm not religious, so I can't relate to silence or stuff like that. And I'm always the person that points out that, hang on, you're not a gangster either, you're a killer, but then you still watch Goodfellas and you like it. You're not a stockbroker, but you can relate to Jordan Belfort in the Wolf of Wall Street. So it might be hypocritical for me to say this, but I found it difficult. I couldn't click with it. There was something about it. There was also some directorial decisions I found a bit weird, like the casting of William Dafoe as Jesus Christ, which, I mean, that's the last person you'd cast in that role, in my opinion. Then there was the New York accents. I know Scorsese was going for a thing where he wanted to relate it to modern day times by having the characters speak with New York accents, but I mean that really took me out of the film. And there's a fair few other things. Some of it is related to the religion of Christianity. I have problems with Catholicism in general, which affected my viewing of not only Last Temptation but Silence as well. So there's a few things here and there. I remember thinking the music was great and it had a really kind of surreal atmosphere, and it was very well shot by Roger Deakins. But yeah, I'd have to give it. I wasn't that impressed, but unfortunately, it was probably more due to elements not related to the film itself, but me. So really, I would need to see it again if I wanted to give another opinion. And on to your second question, where you said, what do I think is the most underrated film? There's quite a few. I mean, it depends who we're talking about, who's underrating them. Because I could say, for example, Casino, but obviously Casino is considered a classic by many. But for some reason, a lot of people think it's shit and it's just a remake of Goodfellas. But After Hours, definitely up there. Bringing Out the Dead is a great film. The Color of Money is underrated. I mean, if you want to watch a Scorsese film made in the style of Goodfellas and Casino, but not a mob movie, rather a pool movie and a con man kind of movie, Color of Money is a great film. Very funny. Got good performances from Tom Cruise and Paul Newman. I think he won an Oscar for it as well, Paul Newman. Not that that matters much. What else was there? For those who haven't seen Alice Doesn't Live Here Anymore, that's a good film. It's got a really good performance from Harvey Keitel, who's very intense in the film. He's hardly in the film, but when he pops up, you sit up in your seat. What else is there? Yeah, I mean, I think those films I could say that are Scorsese's most underrated. After Hours, Bringing Out the Dead. and The Color of Money. Three films that I think are definitely underrated in Scorsese's category. Al Roos says Cape Fear is actually on TV now. It's not his best, and Simpsons has kind of reduced it to a comedy. Yeah, well done on that. Hilarious. Oh, thanks, man. Okay, you see, if Cape Fear is it's quite funny because I always found Cape Fear hilarious because I thought it was so over the top. Everything about it, from the acting, the way it was made, the way it was shot, the music, like that scene, for example, where De Niro is just sitting in the car and he's paid for Nick Nolte's dinner, his family's dinner, and they look outside and he's sitting in the car and the music is like din 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 din. It's like this came off the back of Goodfellas, and The Age of Innocence came a year later. Oh, that's another great Scorsese film, by the way. But I think oh, the film is intentionally over the top. It's so bombastic, and it's made in a kind of style that's reminiscent of many of the old kind of noir movies. And I think many of the bombastic elements are intentional, and it is a very funny film. Like literally, if anybody thinks it's an accident, I mean, look at the climatic scene where De Niro is doing the kind of pseudo court case, where they're on the boat and he's talking to the judge and all that. When he flips his head back and forward, when he does the head thing, you actually hear a Looney Tune sound effect, like a and that just kind of proves that the film is supposed to be balmy. And I think some people miss that when they watch Cape Fear. They're like, oh, I can't take this film seriously. It's too over the top. It's almost funny, but that's kind of the point, in my opinion. And that's one of the reasons why I loved it. I thought it was a great film. And part of the reason why was because it was so over the top. But I see a lot of people who hate it for the same reason, which is a shame, I guess. And I also am someone who didn't see the parody on The Simpsons before I watched the original, so I can see how that would ruin it. When you see the parody of something, you see something parody to no end. Even something like The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. We've seen so many films do the whole spaghetti western standoff thing, and I saw many spoofs and TV shows and stuff, kids shows, cartoons, and all that. And then when I watched the Dollars trilogy for the first time, I was a bit like, oh, so this is where they got that kind of stuff from. And why are these guys just standing there with their hands near their belts and the music's playing? But if you can, you just try and do away with all that kind of stuff and enjoy the film for what it is. And I really enjoyed Cape Fear. It's actually not necessarily one of my favorite Scorsese films because he's made so many great films, but that's a film I have a lot of love for. Glenn says, I have lately been into a lot of obscure spaghetti westerns lately with Lee Van Cleef. That's awesome, mate. I love Lee Van Cleef films. Which ones have you been watching? The Big Gundown was on TV the other day in the UK on TMC. That's one of my favorite Lee Van Cleef westerns. I love the music in that. And there's a few others here and there. Death Rides a Horse, Sabotage. I've yet to see Sabotage. Actually, that's one of the main Lee Van Cleef spaghetti westerns I haven't seen. There's a lot of other ones I've seen. He was a fantastic Western actor. He just oozes screen presence. Just when he's on the screen, he just looks so badass. Lee Van Cleef was really one of the greats in the genre. Have you seen Kioma? Says Mr. Battlefield. No, I haven't, mate. No. Cyborg's here as well. How you doing, Cyborg? Hope you're doing well. Orion says, we're talking about Killers of the Flower Moon. Yeah, I would love to see that. I would love to see that. How he would go in full detail on the characters and how he does with his previous films. I believe it's best not to make it a mystery film because, like you said, we already know. Yeah, I mean, even if, just to add to what you're saying there, even if you go into Killers of the Flower Moon blind, because of who's cast in the film, it's a bit obvious who the killer is, if that makes sense. And I think I did actually. I think in a video called What to Expect from Martin Scorsese's Killer of the Flower Moon, I think I split it into two parts because it was so long. I talked about this and I basically said that if Scorsese really wants the film to work as a murder mystery, he shouldn't have cast Leonardo DiCaprio and Robert De Niro, because you're even just casting them, you're spoiling the film. And then obviously it was revealed that the film is not really going to be a murder mystery. It probably will be for a little while, but then it'll be obvious who it is, and the film will kind of take it from there. Mr. Red's here. How you doing, Mr. Red? Nice to have you on. Elru says Louis is hammy in everything he's in. He's a cinemature and stage actor, and in my opinion, I prefer when some things are left to mystery. I don't think he's hammy in everything he was in. I thought he was very, very hammy in Gangs of New York. I'm trying to think of another example where I thought he was hammy, but I can't really think of one. No, maybe there's a bit of scenery chewing in Lincoln, but I think that kind of fit the character. I don't think he was hammy in There Will Be Blood. My Left Foot, same thing. Nah, man, I don't agree with that, to be honest. When the first thing that comes to mind with Day Lewis for me is not hammy. Transformative is the word I'd use for him. Martin's here. How you doing, Martin W? Batcha, hi. How are you? I don't think we've had you on before. How are you? The Iced Comet is here. Have you seen Wyatt Earp 1994? And if you have, what did you think? I haven't, no. That's Kevin Costner's version, I think, isn't it? I've seen Tombstone, which I think was 93. And that was a great film. I love that film. Martin says, who would you have casted as Jesus Christ in Last Temptation? I don't know, to be honest. Um, if I remember correctly, I read somewhere that I think Scorsese wanted De Niro in the film, not necessarily as Jesus Christ. I'm not sure if he wanted him for the role of that, but he wanted him in the film, but De Niro turned it down. I think he didn't want to do a religious film, or he thought the nature of the film was too controversial. Plus, they hadn't made a film in quite a few years because their last film, The King of Comedy, was a flop. Obviously, it's a classic today, but at the time it was a huge flop that really damaged Scorsese's career, and I think that might have been one of the reasons why De Niro was apprehensive at that being their next team up project. I'm not sure, to be honest, who I'd cast. Mr. Red says Casino is a great film and Bringing Out the Dead. Yeah, if you guys haven't seen Scorsese's Bringing Out the Dead, I would recommend it. It's made in classic. It's got the that classic Scorsese feel, and the whole dark psyche of the characters, the really depressing storylines, but it's really funny as well. I can't remember what the guy's name is. There's an actor in it. The black dude who's in the Mission Impossible films. He was fantastic in the film. He made me laugh so many times, especially that scene where he revives, where the ambulance crew, they revive this guy who's been on drugs, and he turns it into a kind of church thing where he tells everybody to hold hands and start praising the Lord and all that kind of stuff. And he's brilliant in the film. It's got that classic Scorsese humor. Fermogolia says, I loved Color of Money, even though I wasn't even a sports fan. You don't have to be a sports fan to love that film. That was a brilliant film. It's a sequel, by the way, for those who don't know, to a film called The Hustler. It's a black and white film with Paul Newman again. That's even better. But definitely, Color of Money is a great film. Rob the Mob 2014 says Butcher. I've wanted to watch that for a long time. I've not got around to seeing it yet. That's got Ray Romano and if I remember correctly, my mind's gone blank. The guy from Godfather 3, yeah, Andy Garcia. I think they're in it, aren't they? And the guy who was in Boardwalk Empire as Nucky's number 2 for the first 2 seasons. So fairly decent actors. Glenn says Defoe was good in Tomasino, but the end was silly. I've not seen that, to be honest. After Hours is a great Scorsese film, says Mr. Red. Yeah, I definitely agree with that. There was an article recently on After Hours. I might make a video on it because I think it might be a good video to get some discussions going. But if you type in on Google something like how After Hours saved Scorsese's career, something like that, Scorsese is interviewed and he talks about After Hours a lot and how, well, just that, how it saved his career. And I find it a very interesting article. I might do a video on it if you guys are interested in that. Elru says, Bringing Out the Dead is his most underrated, I think. Cracks me up in the dark comedic tone. Good performances. Yeah, I definitely agree with all of that. Got no problem with anybody saying Bringing Out the Dead is Scorsese's most underrated. Batcha again says, Bringing Out the Dead is awesome, way underrated. Stephen Putnam asks, when does The Irishman come out on DVD? It comes out. It's coming out this year. I can't remember when. I think it was uh, November or December. Yeah, I think it's sometime in November. I did a video on it. You can check it out there. Um, just type in Irishman release date, Cinema or something like that. Or you could go to Criterion's website because obviously they're the ones releasing it. But I think it's next month. But we're very close to the release date anyway. Glenn says, I like Alice Doesn't Live Here anymore. Keitel was a prick to Ellen. Yeah, he was so scary in that film. It's just the poor woman didn't know what the hell happened when he popped up and started giving it all that. The poor kid as well. And as you know, now that I mention it, that film had classic Scorsese humor as well. I remember when he was screaming at her, and she was shaking with fear, and then the camera focuses on the kid in the background. You just hear this door slam shut. He's hiding from Keitel as well. It's just that's a great film, really funny as well. Steve's here as well. How you doing, Steve? Steve says there's going to be so many great movies coming out next year, like No Time to Die, Many Saints of Newark, Top Gun Maverick, Fast and Furious 9. Well, potentially great movies, Steve. There's no point declaring a film great before we've actually seen it, because you're just setting yourself up for disappointment there. The best way to watch a film is with measured, moderate expectations, in my opinion. I'm of the opinion that unless a film personally offends you in some way, like maybe it attacks you if it's made about you or your religion or color or whatever, I do believe that you can enjoy not every, but almost every film, providing you're in the right mood, in the right mindset, you know enough about the film or you don't know enough about the film. But one of the worst ways to enjoy a film, one thing that I think a lot of people do today, because of the internet, because of the hype machine and the propaganda and all that stuff, is that our expectations for a film are skyrocketed. And then we see it, and the film, regardless of how good the film is, the film could be brilliant, but because it didn't live up to our expectations, we end up rejecting it, and we end up being disappointed by it. That's one of the reasons, not the main reason. I mean, I don't like going to the cinema, to be honest. One of the reasons why I tend to watch new movies once they've come out on DVD and Blu-ray, because by that time the hype has usually died down. I'm aware of the more disappointments and things that people didn't like about the film. Like, say, this famous actor was only in it for 5 minutes. Okay, so I know now going into the film, this actor's not in it that much. I won't get too excited about him being in the film. Things like that. So, one of the best ways, or a decent mentality to have, is don't get caught up in the hype when you're watching a new film. I don't know why I started saying that. Went off into a tangent. Cyborg says, I watched Tenet for the second time today, and I have to say it's brilliant. Nolan outdid himself, in my opinion. That's interesting you say that. I'm seeing so much online about how disappointing the film is. I'm really interested to watching that. seeing just what all the fuss is about. Alex is here. How you doing, Alex? Alex Spur. Alex says, I feel that the pacing is off in The Irishman. It took me out of the film a little. Where did you feel the pacing was off? Was it in the beginning? Because if it was, then I think we could be having some interesting conversations. Because I felt the pacing was a little bit off as well in the beginning. The first hour of the film is a bit. There's a few things that are a bit iffy in the first hour of the film. There's some scenes that I felt were quite strange because it felt quite unnecessary. There's obviously the de-aging stuff. The worst scene in the film, which is the grocery shop scene, the beatdown, that happens near the beginning. And like you say, the pacing. But after that, like maybe 45 minutes, basically when Al Pacino shows up, I thought the film really picked up after that. And it turned into a great film. The oncoming storm is here as well. We've got a lot of people on tonight, haven't we? This is awesome. The oncoming storm says, "Did you know that the train robbery mission from Red Dead 2 is a homage of the train robbery scene in the assassination of Jesse James? There's a great video which shows a side by side comparison." Yeah, I did know that. Yeah, I've not seen the video, but I've seen the assassination of Jesse James by the coward Robert Ford, and when that part came up in Red Dead Redemption, I instantly knew that this was a homage to that film. It wasn't the first either. There was quite a few homages to famous westerns, and so when this one came up, even the music, wasn't it? The music was quite similar, and those little moments are great. Those are fantastic little moments for western fans. Mr. Red says, "I think Cape Fear is brilliantly made and really a great remake as well." Yeah, that's interesting as well to talk about the film as a remake because it kind of builds on what the original did. I really like the fact that they added instead of making the lawyer or attorney, whatever he was, counselor, I think as De Niro keeps calling him, clear and cut good guy. They add the fact that he intentionally lost the case, so he went against what he's supposed to be doing. So instead of having it clear and cut, the good guy is good, the bad guy is bad. I like that little kind of moral ambiguity that they added into it. In that the bad guy, who is a horrible person, he's a rapist, he's tortured people, he's done all sorts, but he's got a point, which which makes things really interesting. Lee Van Cleef is an absolute legend, says Mr. Red. Yes, he is. Definitely. Not going to hear me arguing about that. Daniel says, I caught the reference in Red Dead 2 and it made me giddy. Cyborg says, what's your favourite 007 movie of the Daniel Craig era? Casino Royale. I really like Casino Royale. Casino Royale is a solid 8 out of 10 for me. The rest of them aren't as good. Quantum of Solace I was quite disappointed with. I mean, it was made during the writer's strike, if I remember correctly, but that wasn't even my biggest problem. I didn't like the way it was directed. Even the opening scene, I remember, had like so many cuts, so many quick cuts of just a car driving. Skyfall was okay. I do have issues with Skyfall. It's a beautiful film, but it was alright. Spectre was boring, and the way they tried to make it out that Blofeld was behind everything, that was just really silly. And he's got daddy issues, and him and James Bond, a stepbrother. No, that was shit. Casino Royale was good though. I like that. That's one of my favorite spaghetti western films. Glenn says, Saboteur, definitely watch it. It's great. I will do. I definitely will do when I can. Mr. S says, love Lee Van Cleef for a few dollars more. And of course, the masterpiece that is The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. Yeah, he was fantastic in both of them, wasn't he? He's been in a few non-spaghetti western films as well, here and there. I always forget that he was in John Carpenter's Big Trouble in Little China. He had a really cool role there as well. Cadden says your thoughts on the similarities between Tartakovsky's Primal and Silence from Scorsese. I've not seen Primal, so I'm afraid I can't answer that question. He's one of the directors the more acclaimed directors I've yet to see a lot from. I've only seen Ivan's Childhood, I think. I don't think I've seen anything else. Mr. Butterfield says, why do you think King of Comedy was a flop? I just don't think audiences were ready for it in many ways. Because, first of all, you've got this duo of Scorsese and De Niro making hardcore films like Raging Bull and Taxi Driver. And then all of a sudden they make this weird movie where the guy who played Travis Bickle is now this massive mustache supporting weirdo who keeps being obsessed with this guy. It's a very cringy movie. It's got a very awkward atmosphere, and there's the things that it tackles, the themes that it tackles, are perhaps more relevant today than they are when the film was made. Of course, they were still relevant then, but still, there's I just think it's too weird. You know, I don't think people were ready to see a Scorsese and De Niro film like that. Perhaps they wouldn't be ready even today. Imagine if Scorsese's next film, let's say he never made King of Comedy in his life, and he hasn't worked with De Niro in 20 years. You know, The Irishman never gets made, and him and De Niro make a new film, and it's like the King of Comedy. Even today, people are gonna be weirded out. They're gonna be like, "What? Travis Bickle, uh, Jake LaMotta, Jimmy Conway, and now this? What is this?" So yeah, I mean, I imagine that's one of the main reasons why, and I think that is the main reason why, because that was kind of what was talked about at the time, as in it was a really weird film for them to make. It's very nice though that now the film is considered a classic, because it is definitely one of Scorsese's best films. Ving Rhames, yeah, that's the guy. If is that how you pronounce it, Ving Rhames or Rames? Terrible with pronunciations, as you guys know. But yeah, he was fantastic in the film. He was so funny, absolutely hilarious. Orion says, I find it ironic that Daniel Day Lewis plays President Lincoln and that his previous character from Gangs of New York, who has hate for Lincoln. Yeah, and they were both alive at the same time, wasn't it? And there's even a scene in Gangs of New York where Daniel Day Lewis throws a knife at a photo or painting of Lincoln. And I always love bringing that up in trivia when someone's watching Gangs of New York with me, and I always say at that scene, I say, listen, you know, he actually played Lincoln like 10, 20 years later. Cyborg says, one TV show that is not getting enough attraction is Gomorrah, an amazing Italian TV series about the Italian mafia. The actors, the music, and the cinematography are mind blowing. Really recommended. I really want to check that out. I was disappointed to learn that it's not on Netflix where I live. I just imagined. I just don't know why. I don't know where I got the idea from, but I thought it was. I've heard so much about that, and I really want to watch it. It actually reminds me that I mentioned on the live stream that I heard about this Italian mafia TV show. It's supposed to be. It's considered the greatest, not even one of, just the greatest Italian TV shows of all time. It started in 1984, I think it was, called La Piovra, which I think means the octopus, which is kind of metaphor for the mafia. It came to my attention because Ennio Morricone started doing the music from season 2, but apparently it's absolutely amazing. And I said to you guys that I was going to watch it. I still haven't got around to seeing it, but when I do, I definitely will be releasing a review. But I'm very interested in seeing that. And obviously Gomorrah, and there's a few other TV shows that you guys have been recommending to me. But it's hard though, isn't it? It's really hard because TV shows are so long. It's hard to commit as much as I wanna. With as me, someone who doesn't have a lot of time. As I mentioned earlier in the chat, I don't even have time to watch movies, which is one of my primary loves in life. And but the thing is, when you watch a movie, hour and a half, 2 hours, 2.5 hours, that's it. It's done. It's finished. and I can just review it on the same day. But with a TV show, obviously, even a short TV show, one season, 10 hours. One that I'm watching right now, and this is another thing, I don't like to watch more than one TV show at the same time. The one I'm watching right now, Resurrection Ertugrul, has episodes that are about 40 minutes, 45 minutes long, but there's like 100 episodes per season, and there's like 5 seasons. It's crazy. It's so long. It's amazing, but it's so long. And I always get flooded with recommendations. Watch Breaking Bad, watch Gomorrah, watch this, watch that. And I love it. I always take it on board. I've added all of these to my watch list, but it's just the time, finding the time to watch all of these. Mr. Butterfield says make a vid on After Hours. Yeah, I might do actually. I might even make a vid on that article that I just mentioned. Sir Dude says an after hours video would be great. And also, what are your thoughts on Age of Innocence? I thought it was good. Again, it's a film that I watched very early on in my life, so I would need to watch it again to get a proper, um, uh, give a proper review or opinion. I don't think I was mature enough when I watched it because the themes are very mature, but I still think I got it and I understood it. I love the way it was shot. It was a very glamorous film, wasn't it? And I remember really liking the ending. When I won't say it, but because obviously spoilers. But for those who have seen it, the whole bit about Daniel Day Lewis sitting at the bench and staring at the window, and the decision that he makes. That was such a something really worth discussing with your mates. And yeah, I enjoyed that film, Age of Innocence. I thought it was a really good film, even back then when I watched it, because I think I might have been, I don't know, 15 years old. And this is coming off of someone who's watching films like Goodfellas and Casino. I watched that because it was one of the few Scorsese films I hadn't seen, and obviously very different. A bit of a la-di-da film, not the kind of film that a teenage boy would kind of watch. But I did remember enjoying it, thinking it was good. Mr. Red says The Hustlers. Yeah, that's The Hustler that we just talked about 15 minutes ago. The Hustler is an amazing film released in the early 60s, and yes, The Color of Money is a sequel to that. Most people don't know. Said it is November, the Criterion um, physical release of The Irishman is coming out. I think there's so many people on here today that I'm really behind in the chat. I'm noticing that people are talking about something that I mentioned maybe like 10, 15 minutes ago. So I'm obviously really slow in reading the chat. I need to pick up the pace a bit. So Mr. Red says you're thinking about the actor Michael Pitt. Yeah, definitely. That's what I'm talking about. In Rob the Mob. I saw that not too long ago, about 2 months. What did you think of it? Was it good? Was it worth watching? Martin Scorsese's films have certain religious themes, not entirely, but reflecting on his upbringing. Yeah, definitely. It's all as an author, he's gonna have things that the themes, that are always uh, present in his films, and of course, a huge part of that for him is his religion. Cadden says, I could see a number of similarities between Silence from Martin Scorsese to Isle of Dogs by Wes Anderson, and I'd totally pay to see a video essays about. What about you? Oh, I'm sorry to disappoint you again, Cadden, but I haven't seen Isle of Dogs. Um, Again, it's one of the very few Wes Anderson films I haven't actually seen. I just never got around to it. But it's interesting you say that. I Isle of Dogs, just from what I've seen or heard about it, I'm quite amused at the film that you're comparing to Scorsese's Silence. That's quite interesting. Daniel says The Lighthouse was a movie that I knew nothing about, and somewhere said it was a masterpiece, and I heard good stuff about the acting and was blown away. I really liked The Lighthouse. That was a good film. I really liked it. Batch is asking about the Piano, I've not seen that one unfortunately, so I can't give an opinion. Orion says, "Do you think Daniel Day Lewis would play John Ramsey in Killers of the Flower Moon if he's not retired?" I don't think so because Ramsey isn't the biggest role. I don't think it's not the most meatiest of roles, and I think if Daniel Day Lewis did come out of retirement, he'd want to play, or he would play, leading man in a film. It'd be a really juicy, meaty role. I can't see a director trying to coax him out of retirement and then giving him a role that isn't really that big. And I don't think John Ramsey is going to be that big. He is going to obviously be a big role in the film, but I don't think that big. Cyborg says, "What are your thoughts on Ryan Gosling? He's been in some pretty amazing films this decade, but I don't get what directors like about him. He's a one-note expression type actor, in my opinion." Well, I mean, I think if he was a woman, we'd say he was eye candy, and that's why he gets cast. And I think, I think that's a fair assessment, to be honest. Like you, I've never really been too impressed. He's like I mean, like you said, he's been in some good films. Drive, the new Blade Runner film. But like you said, he just kind of makes the same face in every film. He's always just kind of quiet, and he stares, and there's a bit more staring. I liked him in The Nice Guys. He really kind of changed it up. He was quite funny in that film. If you haven't seen The Nice Guys, check that out, and you might see a different side to uh, Ryan Gosling. He kind of loosens up. It's a bit like something that I say about Leonardo DiCaprio, in that I find him kind of stiff. And then when he did Wolf of Wall Street and Django Unchained, it did feel like the guy was loosening up. He was enjoying himself a bit more, and I started to like his performances more. Whoa, I'm very far behind in the chat, so I'm gonna try and speed through these comments. I'm sorry if I miss your comments, guys, because I'm very happy to report we've got quite a few people on tonight. If I miss something, just repeat it, and hopefully I'll catch it. Or you could use the super chat, where if you do that, your comment gets kind of pinned, so I'll definitely see it. Steve says Rupert Pupkin in King of Comedy reminds me of De Niro's character in Copland, causing trouble and being obsessed, both funny odd characters. He always, I mean, this is a cliche to say, I think now, but I always was reminded of Taxi Driver's Travis Bickle with Rupert Pupkin. It felt like, even the film itself, just King of Comedy kind of feels like a mirror to Taxi Driver. It's like Scorsese made Taxi Driver, and then someone said to him, "Okay, can you make the same film, but can you make it funny?" And the result is the King of Comedy. Knock is a great film, overlooked and underrated, says Mr. Red. That's the one with Ray Liotta, isn't it? Somebody recommended that to me. I've still not seen that one. Billy Grady. Hi, Billy. Nice to have you on. Billy Grady says, "Hey, CR. Another great Western is Open Range with Kevin Costner and Robert Duvall. Great slow building film with the classic Western shootout at the end." I've seen that. That was really good. I really liked Open Range. Fantastic modern Western. I think it was 2002, wasn't it, that it was released? Really gorgeous looking film with some. I'm a big fan of um, or what's his name, Robert Duvall, and I'll see most films that have him in it. And he was really good in that film. I really enjoyed that film. Orion says, "I'm afraid I have to leave early. I want to say thank you having the time answering our questions in the chat and taking the time to chat with us as well." No problem, Orion. Thank you guys. You guys are the ones I should be thanking. You guys are sitting here listening to some boring old fart talk about movies whose face you haven't even he hasn't even shown you his face, and yet you guys are here asking questions. We're all having discussions, and I'm so grateful for this. So thank you guys very much. Alex Spur says, yeah, it was the first hour, and that grocery store scene was so bad that I don't see how Scorsese didn't notice or didn't have a problem with it. Maybe it was the editor's fault. Yeah, I mean, so yeah, I agree because the first hour or so of The Irishman is very slow. There are some scenes that feel like they're going for too long, and some scenes that don't really need to be in the film. I remember feeling, I don't know why, maybe it's the music and the slow pacing, but I always feel a bit sleepy when De Niro is in his car and he's going around that laundry place, scoping it out. And there's other scenes here and there that it felt that the editing could have been tighter. Maybe it's Scorsese kind of utilizing the fact that he's got a film released on Netflix and he can make it as long as he wants, so he makes scenes longer than they could be. But the grocery store scene. I still remember sitting in the cinema because I saw The Irishman in cinema about a month before it came out on Netflix. I was sitting in the cinema, and when that scene happened, I was shocked. I was gobsmacked. I literally thought I cannot believe what I'm seeing. And I love The Irishman, but I'm not gonna. I'm not a fanboy or anything. I'll give my honest opinion. I don't think it's a perfect film. And that scene, I remember thinking, did I really just see that? And then I thought to myself, do you know what? I'm actually scared now, because is this the film that I was waiting for so long? Is this the film that I spent 2 years talking about on a YouTube channel, gaining a following with loads of subscribers? Is this the film that I was waiting for 10 years since I heard about when I was in high school? And now look at it. What the hell is this? It was ridiculously bad. And I mean, it's because the cast and crew were doing, they were going around doing loads of different premieres. I just can't imagine De Niro, Pacino, Pesci, Scorsese, Keitel, all these guys, Schoonmaker, sitting in the cinema and watching that scene repeatedly and thinking, yeah, we did a good job there. I can't imagine them not cringing, because I'm cringing, when I see that. It is a really bad, it's shockingly bad, because the film is so good, and then this stands out as some really weird scene. I don't know what. I mean, I see what they were going for. I know why they did it, obviously, and the scene is very important because it kind of highlights uh, his daughter moving away from him. Um, but the execution was horrible. It's kind of funny because I remember seeing a video of them making that scene on YouTube, and it looked really weird and wonky then as well. But I thought, you know what, all films look like that, and when we see it in the film, it's gonna look really cool. But it didn't look cool, did it? David is asking, what are your future plans with this channel? Well, I mean, uh, with this channel, I just talk about what I want. You know, mainly movies, a little bit on TV shows, a tiny bit on books, but I just like reviewing films and talking about the kind of films I like, and that's really just about it. I do have certain video ideas. I won't mention them, but certain things that I haven't tried yet that I might want to try out. But I've got. There's nothing concrete, but I do have vague plans simmering in my head, directions I could take the channel in. I mean, let me flip that and ask you guys: what do you guys want to see on the channel? What do you want to see me do more of, or something that I haven't done yet? What do you want me to see do? Is there any particular kind of videos that you want to see, or series that you want to see? I know we did talk about, for example, doing a movie of the week, didn't we? Where we'd say that we'd all watch a film and then we talk about it on a live stream. And we did that once, didn't we? We did it with Harvey Keitel's Bad Lieutenant, and I thought that was a very good live stream when we all just kind of sat here and talked about it. Maybe we should do that again. Cyborg Bushin says, I rewatched Collateral by Michael Mann and I didn't realize that Jamie Foxx's acting wasn't that believable the first time I watched it. I don't remember much of his acting, to be honest. Um, I like the film. The film was good, but Tom Cruise is always the thing that I remember in terms of uh, the acting. Because I mean, maybe Tom Cruise doesn't really do anything that much different from the films he usually does, but it was just the sheer fact of him being a villain, which was so unlike Tom Cruise, and he did a great job. Daniel says, I could see what Scorsese was trying to do with the grocery store scene, yet it's mainly because De Niro can't physically move fast enough to look like he's hurting a man severely. I'm not sure, you know. I'm really not sure. I'm just gobsmacked and I'm dumbfounded with that scene. I don't know why it turned out the way it did. Is it because De Niro is all slow and lumbering? I'm not sure, you know. I know he's strong. You know, I know he lifted Zac Efron for. He put Zac Efron on his back for a promo picture for Dirty Grandpa. He works out. You know, he's physically fit. Doesn't mean he's fast, obviously, but he is fit. I know Frank Sheeran is supposed to be a lumbering guy who's got loads of he's got some physical disabilities, but see, it's not even that. You know, there's so many things. It's just a comical scene. The way the glass smashes with the guy, the grocer hardly touching it. The way he's not even trying to move out of the way of Frank Sheeran stepping on his boot. The way that De Niro kind of lightly taps on his hand, and the guy screams in agony. The way it kind of looks like De Niro's forgot which foot he's supposed to stamp with, and kind of hesitates in the moment. There's just so many things wrong with it. I mean, it might be that De Niro didn't pull it off, but for me, I would put the accountability on Scorsese more than anybody else. If De Niro is too old and he isn't fast enough to convincingly look like he's stamping on someone, then they should have filmed the scene differently. It didn't need to be one take, I don't think. In fact, some people, because I made a video on this, very popular video that got over 100,000 views, so a lot of opinions, a lot of comments in the comment section. Some people felt that they didn't even need to show the beatdown, maybe show it off screen, the noise, the glass smashing, the fruit clattering, and then show his daughter Peggy's reaction. That might have been worked, you know, that could have worked easily. I still think that De Niro could have done it differently. So maybe there was an artistic reason for it happening that way, or maybe they just ran into some problems. Because I know that because there's an interesting scene in The Irishman, um, where De Niro is on the phone to Hoffa's widow near the end of the film, and there's a really weird jump cut, and a lot of people have a lot of opinions about this. And I made a video on this where I explained why they exactly did it. I think it's called why is there this weird cut in The Irishman, something like that. A lot of people had their opinions. Some people thought that, you know, it was Frank Sheeran recalling the memory, and it was a difficult memory to recall, and hence Scorsese does something there. But perhaps it's the same with the grocery store scene. But with this scene, the real answer is very simple. It was that De Niro gave the way the expression he was making in one take was brilliant, and his acting in another take was brilliant. And Scorsese and the editors, they couldn't mesh it together, so he just said, you know, jump cut it. We'll keep both of them in. That was it. So maybe you're right. Maybe they just ran into some problems with the grocery store scene. Maybe De Niro couldn't pull it off. I don't know what the reason is, but I mean, I've seen other films of De Niro, recent films, where he seems to be quite fit. So I mean, I don't know. It was a really bad scene, to be honest. Daniel says, I'd like to do that. Watch a movie and chat on it, like a virtual book club. Yeah, I mean, we've only done it once. Maybe it's my fault that we haven't continued with it, because I haven't really kind of pushed it. But I did enjoy doing it about Harvey Keitel's Bad Lieutenant. Steve saying as well, what film do you recommend us watching this week? Well, what should we go for? Let's should we give it a go? What should we do? I mean, I need to do a film that I haven't seen. Okay, shall we pick a film that a lot of you guys have told me to watch that I've not seen that I think most of us will enjoy, given it's a relatively praised crime film. You know that film from I think it's made in the 90s, early 90s, called State of Grace, with Sean Penn, Gary Oldman's in it, I think. There's one or two other famous actors in it. I've not seen that film. So what do we think, guys? State of Grace, is that a film worth watching before next week Saturday, and then on Saturday in the evening, same time, same place, we could discuss it. So yeah, let me know. Sarbook says your thoughts on Spike Lee. I personally hold this director in my heart. I like his films from the ones I've seen. There was one that I didn't like, Inside Man, which I thought was a bit of a dud. But I really enjoyed Malcolm X, Do the Right Thing, and one or two others. Clockers, yeah, I've seen Clockers. I've actually reviewed that very recently on the channel. That was quite good. But yeah, I enjoy him. I think he's made some really good films. Michael says, I said the same thing about the beating, or I think he should have just punched him in the stomach a few times. Yeah, because he punched the deadbeat, didn't he? The guy who Danny Abekasa plays. He punched him in the stomach and got him in a headlock, and he didn't look old and feeble doing that. So, yeah, I mean, he could have done that. Please turn the volume up, says Ivor. Is my volume low, is it? I mean, I think I might end the chat soon anyway, but I can put the volume up a little bit. I think it might work. If I just hit that button there, you let me know if this makes a difference. I put it up a little bit. Cybook says, how do you feel about the digital recreation of dead actors? I think it's creepy and disrespectful to the actors. Yeah, I kind of agree with you there. It is creepy. I remember really being kind of taken aback and weirded out when it happened in Rogue One, Star Wars Rogue One, with Grand Moff Tarkin, Peter Cushing's character. It's just so many things about it that's just off, and there is an element where it's like, okay, nobody is safe now, you know. Will they make a Godfather 4, for example, and have Marlon Brando digitally recreated? You know, even when you're in the grave, you know, Hollywood still isn't done with rinsing you out. But is it hypocritical if we say that? Because we've seen real life actors who have died, who have been played by other actors. Maybe there's a big difference, you know. But I mean, is it a hypocrite? I mean, I agree with you. It's creepy and it's disrespectful. But then, can you say the same thing about when an actor plays another character, or another actor takes up the role that a dead actor left behind, or something like that? I think, like, say for example, the guy who played Dracula, Bela Lugosi, in he's he's a character in Tim Burton's Ed Wood, his 1994 picture, and the guy who's his son in real life had problems with the way he was portrayed, and there's many examples of that being the case in many films. But you know, is that disrespectful? Because I loved that performance in the film. So yeah, I mean, it's an interesting discussion to have. I do agree with you that it is a bit weird, but then again, I think to myself, am I a hypocrite for thinking that? Ivor says that's better. Good, awesome. Maybe I have to remember the settings. Then I'll do the same settings for next week. Daniel says I don't know what is State of Grace. Okay, let me just IMDb it, and I'll let you know the plot outline. Cause it's a crime movie, so I think we'll all enjoy it. So it says here, State of Grace, 2 hours 14 minutes. A New York cop is recruited to return to his hometown and infiltrate the mob ran by his best friend's brother. It stars Sean Penn, Ed Harris, Gary Oldman, and there's quite a few good actors in it. John C. Riley's in it. John Turturro's in it. Robin White's in it. Robin Wright. Yeah, so if you guys ain't got a problem with it, we could make this our film to watch and discuss next week. Daniel says, I didn't like the Klansman movie that Spike Lee did. People said it was amazing and some of it was good, but most of it was silly. I've not seen that one. I want to watch it because, well, like you said, people keep saying it's amazing. Even Scorsese, I think, he said he's seen it and he loved it. I've not seen that one though, not yet. The Oncoming Storms recommending Utopia. Okay, I think I've heard of that. I don't remember, but yeah, cool. The Oncoming Storm says not only is it stunning visually with its use of bright and saturated colors, but also strangely topical and relevant in relation to the pandemic. Cool. It's extremely dark, violent, but has some comedic moments as well. The soundtrack is so weird and yet amazing and fits perfectly with the show. It lasted 2 seasons after being cancelled, and although it didn't have a proper ending, most of the show's story and character arcs were wrapped up, which is fine. With only 12 episodes in total, there is no filler and the plot always keeps moving forward. Awesome. So Mr. Red has said, yeah, that'd be great. State of Grace is an incredible film, CR. Oh, so you've seen it. Oh, The Oncoming Storm has seen it as well. Okay, but I would prefer a film that most of us at least haven't seen. But I guess it was the same situation with Bad Lieutenant. I mean, most of you guys had seen it, and I hadn't seen it. But yeah, yes, okay. I'll make sure. I'll do my best to make sure I'll see State of Grace before Saturday, and then we can talk about it. That'll be our movie for the Saturday. Cyborg says, your favorite David Fincher movie, is it Zodiac? Mine is Strange. Curious, isn't it? The Curious Case of Benjamin Button. Yeah, it is Zodiac. How do you know? Did I mention that before? I think I have. Yeah, Zodiac is my favorite David Fincher film. A brilliant film, I think. Steve's recommended Catchfire. Yeah, I remember you talking about that. I want to see that. Because I'm in that kind of mood now to watch obscure Joe Pesci films. Because he's not got a very big filmography, has he? Once you've seen all the main ones, you've pretty much seen almost his entire filmography. So it'd be nice to check out the more obscure films from Pesci's career. And you've mentioned that a few times. I've yet to watch it, unfortunately. David says, do you think Hugo should have won the Best Picture instead of The Artist? It depends what else was nominated. So let's see what was nominated. To answer your question, let's see. So if I type in Best Picture nominations, 2011, wasn't it? Okay, so there was 127 Hours, Winter's Bone, Toy Story 3, The King's Speech, Inception, True Grit, The Social Network. Okay, I picked the wrong year here, clearly. Maybe it was 2010. $2009, maybe? No, when was Hugo made? I could swear down it was 2011. Yeah, 2011. So maybe it's 2012 then that it comes under in the awards. Okay, yeah, so here it is. So you got The Descendants. Yeah, I've seen that. That was alright. Moneyball, I've not seen that. Tree of Life, not seen that. The Help, I've seen that. That was quite good. Warhorse, not seen that. Midnight in Paris, not seen that. The Artist, seen it. I thought it was good. Extremely Loud and Incredibly Close. Sorry, I've not seen that. And Hugo. So I've only seen 4 films on that list, and I definitely think Hugo is within a shout for Best Picture. I thought The Artist was a good film, but I did not think it was Best Picture material. Because the thing is, I think if that film, that film's gimmick was it being black and white and it being a silent film. Yeah, that was the main selling point about it. But if that film was made in the 1910s, it would still be remembered as a good film, but obviously because it wouldn't have the gimmick then, I don't think it would stand out as much. So I probably wouldn't give the Oscar to um, The Artist. And to answer your question, I probably would give it to Hugo if that was the only option from that and The Descendant and The Help, because that's what I've seen. What TV show do you recommend, says Cyborg? Well, I mean, I've been watching for the past. I mean, it's because it's so long. This Turkish show called Diriliş Ertuğrul, or Resurrection. So you're Muslim as well, aren't you, Cyborg, as well? And it's a Muslim centric TV show. It's about. I mean, a lot of it is made up. A lot of it is fiction. It's historical fiction, but there is a gist of truth to it. It's about this guy called Ertuğrul who was basically the granddaddy of the Ottoman Empire. His son Osman the First founded the Ottoman Empire, and it's just about his adventures and his fighting with the Templars and the Mongols, infighting within his tribe and all that kind of stuff. It's a great show. It's got a lot of good drama. The world building is amazing, and it's one of those where the characters are so great, and you always kept wondering what happens next. So I'd recommend that, to be honest. Daniel says, I learned a fact that the movie Zodiac actually reopened the case on the Zodiac, as the movie is, I think, entirely accurate and was used as a reference in the case. Yeah, that's true. It actually did reopen. It's amazing, isn't it? That uh, film managed to, it's just off the top of my head. JFK did the same thing, didn't it? Where they literally reopened the case because of the movie. It's crazy that a film has that power. Cadden says favorite Steven Spielberg film. Oh man, that is a difficult question. He's just made so many classics, hasn't he? That is an impossible question to answer, Cadden. I mean, even if you said which Indiana Jones film, so there's only 4 options there of Spielberg's movies, but even that's hard for me because I'd find it difficult to pick. Um, I mean, there's Jaws, there's Jurassic Park, ZT, Close Encounters, Schindler's List. I mean, the list just goes on. I really can't. I mean, Raiders maybe Raiders of the Lost Ark. I don't know, man. That's a really difficult question to answer. Cyborg says I'll watch it for sure. So yeah, definitely check it out. It's on Netflix as well, by the way. I think it's even on YouTube. The only real problem is, I mean, the first season has a lot of teething problems, like quite poor. There's a few cheesy things here and there, and the English subtitles are not the best. Some of the subtitles are quite evidently not made by people who have the clearest understanding of the English language. But I mean, it's an amazing show. The whole world has uh, kind of because it's huge in the subcontinent. It's huge in Africa. It's huge in the Middle East. Many European countries picked it up. It's crazy that it's been become so popular. Starbucks says, imagine if Al Pacino would have played the role of Nicky in Casino, and Joe Pesci would have played Vincent Hanna in Heat. Do you think it would have worked? I mean, yeah, I could see Pacino working as Nicky. I mean, I think Pesci was perfect. You know, all these even real life mob people like Marco Frances, they say that Pesci was perfect as Nicky. He even looked like the guy, and if you look him up, Nicky's uh, the ant, Spilotro, sorry, um, he does look like him. But Pacino could have pulled it off, I think. Yeah. But Pesci as a cop is difficult to imagine. Him chasing down De Niro. I find it difficult to envision that, to be honest. How many Joe Pesci films have I seen, Steve? Well, I've seen. Okay, I've seen all the Lethal Weapons films. I've seen Once Upon a Time in America. I've seen Goodfellas. I've seen Casino. I've seen Raging Bull. I've seen The Irishman. I've seen My Cousin Vinny. I've seen the 2 Home Alone films. Have I seen any more Joe Pesci films? If I have, I can't remember. I think there might be 1 or 2 more. Oh, I've seen The Death Collector, Pesci's first major film. I think that's it. Daniel says as a weekly watch, I'd recommend Oldboy 2003. I haven't seen it entirely as subtitles are hard to come by. Well, I've actually seen it, to be honest. So I mean, I think most of the guys are all right with State of Grace. Oldboy was really good though. If you haven't seen the whole thing, it's worth checking out. The other one is really good because he made 3 films, didn't he? The director, uh, Sympathy for Mr. Vengeance was just as good as Oldboy. I mean, Oldboy is probably the better film technically, but uh, Sympathy for Mr. Vengeance really got me in the guts. You know, it got me in the feels. The third one, Lady Vengeance, I haven't seen that one. Right, guys. I think I might call it a day now. Bit tired, to be honest. It's past midnight here in the UK. Hour and 27 minutes. That's not bad. There's a lot of people on today. You know, that was nice. But yeah, I think I'll call it a day there, guys. So yeah, State of Grace. If uh, if we all try and watch that, if you haven't already seen it, and we can talk about it in addition to other films. But let's make that our movie for next week Saturday. State of Grace 1990 with Sean Penn and Gary Oldman and Ed Harris. So I'll see you guys. Yeah. Oh yeah, Daniel. It's not the it's part of a trilogy, Old Boy, but the stories are not connected. It's basically just a vengeance trilogy, 3 films um about revenge, with revenge as the main theme. So you got Sympathy with Mr. Vengeance, then it's Old Boy, and then the third one, which I haven't seen, Lady Vengeance. But yeah, so yeah, Daniel, Oncoming Storm, Cadden, David, Cyborg, everybody, Steve, and anybody else was on. I'll see you guys hopefully next week, Saturday, 11 p.m. UK time, 6 p.m. US time. Stay safe, and I'll see you guys then.